Man, woman, birth, death, infinity.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Your Health radio and television program on the radio at AM 1240 KNRY, AMP's cable television channel 24, and on the web at www.ampmedia.org. Join our rotating host and their informative guests live every Monday afternoon at 4 o'clock. The purpose of the Your Health radio and television program is to help get, make, and keep listeners and viewers like you healthy. And now, ladies and gentlemen, on with the program.
Hello and welcome to the Your Health radio and television program hosted by the Monterey County Health Department. I'm Emily Sciolto, your host today and just about every third Monday of the month. Do you bring your own bags to the grocery store? Do you recycle? If so, do you know where your recycling goes after it's picked up? Did you participate in this past Saturday's 6th annual Monterey County Cleanup Day? Did you know that Earth Day 2012 is coming this Friday, April 22nd? Well, it is. Earth Day, a day that is intended to inspire awareness and appreciation for the Earth's natural environment, was founded by United States Senator Gaylord Nelson in 1970. While Earth Day was intentionally focused on the United States, it took to the international scene in 1990 and is now coordinated globally by the Earth Day Network and celebrated in more than 175 countries worldwide. I'm very excited to talk about today's program, as we have great guests lined up here to talk with us about how Monterey County contributes to the global green effort. A little later this hour, we'll be hearing from Jenny Napoleon and Gabriela Carbajal from the Health Department about multifamily recycling and cleanup days. But first off, without further ado, I'd like to introduce my first guest, Ms. Jennifer Mitchell. Hi, Jennifer. Thanks again for being here today. May I call you Jenny?
Yes.
Great. Jenny is a resource recovery technician and comes to us from the Salinas Valley Solid Waste Authority. First and foremost, Jenny, can you tell us briefly what your agency does and what your function is within all of that?
Yes, and thank you for inviting me this afternoon, Emily. The Salinas Valley Solid Waste Authority owns landfills and transfer stations along the Salinas Valley, basically from Prunedale down to King City. And because we are a solid waste processing facility, we are mandated by the state to reduce our waste by 50% by the year 2015. Our goal is to reduce it by 75%. So my job is to do public outreach to the people of the Salinas Valley and basically teach them how they can reduce their waste and their environmental footprint. Great, thank you. So what are the 3 R's or 4 R's? I don't know. I've heard a lot about these R's. Okay. Are there 3? Are there 4? What's going on here? Well, we're kind of using 4 now. Reduce, reuse, recycle is sort of the traditional 3 R's, but we've kind of added refuse at the beginning of that. So these, basically, they're just sort of techniques you can use to reduce your waste, and they're in order of importance. So it's much more effective to refuse a plastic bag than to have to, recycle it. So if you never created the waste in the first place, you don't have to worry about, getting rid of it. So and the importance of it is basically that it's reducing the environmental degradation that's happening when you process materials and basically commerce. You're manufacturing and distributing all these products to the people, and there's a lot of waste created in that process. So by reducing the amount of waste, you're reducing pollution and environmental degradation through basically what you're doing is you're conserving resources, you're conserving energy, you're conserving landfill space, and you're also reducing pollution and greenhouse gases. So that's why it's so important to try and practice the 4 R's so that we can make the environment a cleaner place. Excellent. And so we'll talk more about specific ways that you can go about reducing, refusing, recycling, and reusing. And we'll focus here now mostly about recycling. So what types of materials are recyclable? And this may or may not be new information for folks, but I want to kind of make sure that people understand what exactly you can recycle and where you put it. Right. Well, we're lucky in this area and California in general as well because we have a very good recycling infrastructure. So we take, in our jurisdiction and most places around California, except for maybe remote areas, plastics 1 through 7, metal, glass, and paper. And so basically anything made out of those products can be recycled in our area. Even plastic bags and plastic film, which is, everything comes in plastic, right? You buy a case of water and it's wrapped in plastic. Your toilet paper comes in plastic. Everything comes wrapped in plastic. So you can recycle that if you just put it all into one bag, including your shopping bags, and just tie it up and put it in your recycle bin. Of course, we would rather have you bring your own bag than take the bag from the store. Just refuse it in the first place, and you're much better off, and so is the planet. So, but even things like broken toys, if it's a plastic toy that's broken or a metal toy that's broken or a tool, or you broke a pot or a pan, you can put that sort of stuff in your recycle bin too. And just basically any container made of plastic, and glass can go in there. You can't really put like broken dishes and things like that because they're made of a different material than just your beer bottles and wine bottles and things like that. So, but all that other kind of glass jars and everything can go in there as well. And paper is one of the most recyclable things, and I think you can recycle it up to 7 times. So anything cardboard, junk mail, office paper, just anything made of paper can go in the recycle bin. So those are like the 4 food groups of recycling. It's just basically metal, paper, plastic, and glass.
Okay. And so where does my recycling go after it's picked up from my house, the curbside area, or where does recycling go?
It goes to a material recovery facility, or MRF, as we like to call them.
Okay.
Which it's basically, once it gets there, it's sorted and separated in a variety of different ways. There's conveyor belts, there's magnets, there's blowers, and there's people that are actually hand sorting it. So it gets sorted, and then once they sort it out into the different materials, they'll bale it, and then they'll sell it to like a recycling mill that will reprocess it into feedstock to make new products.
Okay. So is that like the shoelaces that you gave me that say these used to be plastic bottles? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the MRF makes them. Basically, from the MRF, they get distributed out to companies that are going to make them into usable things.
Right, exactly.
And so you mentioned earlier the numbers, plastics 1 through 7 is something that you mentioned when I asked you what materials are recyclable. What are the numbers? I'm not sure if folks are familiar with the numbers that are inside of these little recycling symbols. And right now I'm just holding up a little poster that has a symbol and a number 1 inside, and it has an acronym. For instance, this one is PET, P-E-T, and the full name and uses are polyethylene, something else, fizzy drink bottles, and frozen ready meal packages. So what do these numbers mean exactly?
So those are what are known as plastic resin identification codes. So what they do is tell you what kind of plastic resin was used to make that product. So when you say number 1, PET, they'll use those to make your soda bottles, water bottles, things like that. It was created actually for recyclers so that they could know how to separate and categorize the different kinds of plastics. It was not created to tell you, yes, this is recyclable. So just because you see that on there doesn't mean it can be recycled. Different areas, like our area, we take a lot of recyclables, but other areas might not. So just because it has the sign on there doesn't mean it. If your processors only accept 1 through 5 plastics, and you've got something that's a 7, it's not going to get recycled. So basically, it's very important to find out what is accepted at your local facility so that you can try to maybe avoid buying products that are made from, plastics that aren't easily recyclable. And basically, numbers 1 and 2 are the ones that are highly recycled. They have the highest recycling rates. So when you're starting to get down to 5, 6, and 7, things like that, those are less commonly recycled. So it's definitely important to find out from your recycling facilities what they accept and what they don't accept.
Okay, learning a lot here. So continuing on this topic, what if recycling isn't even available in the area in which you live?
Right. Sometimes, like apartment complexes, since they're considered a business, they might not have recycling because it's not mandatory. Like as residents, we get our rolling carts, and it's mandatory. You have to recycle. I mean, not necessarily everybody does, but they give you the carts and they give you the infrastructure to do it. So if you don't have recycling, say, in your apartment complex, or you live in a rural area where they don't accept a lot, I would recommend first trying to refuse, reuse, and reduce, because if you're creating less waste, then you don't have to worry about recycling it, right? And if you really want to recycle, you can collect it and save it, and then find out where your nearest recycling facility is, and you can bring it there. And sometimes you can make money, off the bottles if you have a bottle bill like California does. So we can recycle aluminum cans and plastic bottles pretty readily, so you can get money for that, and a lot of people do. Some things you're not going to really get a lot of money for, like if you have a bunch of cardboard or something like that. But if you find out where the facility is and it's not too far from where you're at, you can bring it there yourself, save it and bring it there. We accept at our facility on Sun Street, and actually at all of our at our landfill and our other transfer station, we have a recycling center set up where you can go and drop off all your stuff for free. We don't pay people for it, but you can definitely drop it off for free. We take plastic, metal, glass. Basically, we take like computer, electronic waste for free. All this is free, so you can get rid of anything basically recyclable before you even would go over the scale. So you don't have to pay for any of that. So
great.
We accept those materials.
The payoff really is doing a good thing for your environment, right?
Right.
We don't need money to be able to motivate us.
And it's not all that much money anyway, to bring them in. I mean, unless you have a huge amount of plastic bottles and cans. But still, it's kind of worth it.
So no one's going to be getting rich on recycling.
No.
But we can surely be rich in the way that we save our environment and foster our environment. So besides recycling, we've talked a lot about that. What are some other ways that people can reduce the waste that they generate?
Well, first of all, we can try not to impulse shop. I spend way too much money on stuff I don't need, and just basically buy less stuff. So that right there is going to help you reduce. If you consume less, you're going to create less waste. So that's number one. You can avoid buying overpackaged products. You can always bring your own bag, bring your own coffee mug, bring your own water bottle that you refill at home with a Brita or some kind of a water cooler. If you want to be really motivated, you can bring your own to-go container to the restaurant, because a lot of them use the styrofoam, which is very bad and pervasive in the environment. You can also, if you're going to have an outdoor event, you can bring your reusable dishes and cutlery. You don't have to have single use, throw it out right after you use it type stuff. You can donate useful items. You can shop at reusable or reused stores, or you can shop at yard sales and spend less money anyway. Print, if you don't need to print something on paper, don't print it. If you're going to, always do double-sided. Compost your food. You could do that. Food waste is it's the largest part of our waste that's getting landfilled is organic food. So you can always have like your little countertop composter, and have a compost. If you have room in your yard, just put it out there, and make something useful out of that too. That'll reduce a lot of your waste. A lot of times batteries are thrown away. They're not supposed to be, but you can use rechargeable batteries instead of just single use after they're dead household batteries that you throw out. So there's a couple things that you can do. There's lots of other things you can do, but
you listed off quite a few there. So some of the big ones though, don't throw away batteries. Those can be taken to the facility, the transfer station that you were mentioning, and you can use rechargeable batteries. Using of Tupperwares and whatnot for lunches and leftover food items instead of plastic bags, you mentioned. What else? We've got, go ahead.
I think that the most important things are reusable bags, reusable water bottles, and reusable coffee cups, because a lot of them are just single-use, disposable. They throw it out after using it for 20 minutes, a styrofoam cup, and it's going to last in the environment for longer than we'll ever see, so basically forever. So those are the things that you can do that are definitely going to cut down. I mean, if everybody stopped, imagine how much waste would be saved. I mean, in this country, it's 274 million plastic bags are used just by U.S. citizens every day, and 45 million water bottles or plastic bottles. So, and only a fraction of those actually even get recycled in this country. I mean, California, we do a really good job, and there's other states that have the bottle bill where they, you know, you can get money for them and stuff like that, so more get recycled, but on the whole, I think it's like 6% or less of water bottles even get recycled, and those are number one PET, so those are the most valuable, and they're still getting landfilled. So,
and those are the ones that most facilities accept.
Yeah,
correct?
Exactly.
Yeah, so water bottles, what else did you just mention? Water bottles, we need to cut back on our
plastic bags
and
coffee cups. Yeah.
So that's 3 actionable items that people can immediately kind of change their behavior and take action on.
Right.
So aside from some of these ways that people can reduce their waste, what types of waste, if you unfortunately have it, what types of waste can't go in the garbage?
So basically, things that we don't want in the garbage are things you would consider household hazardous waste. So anything from cleansers to household batteries to antifreeze, motor oil, fluorescent bulbs, mercury switches, thermometers, things that have toxic chemicals in them or heavy metals, because what happens is if you landfill them, the water goes through and then they start to break down, and those chemicals get into groundwater and people get really sick. So they have to be taken to a different facility, which is the household hazardous waste facility. We have one at Sun Street where you can drop it off if you're a resident for free. You don't have to have an appointment, but if you are a business, they do charge you, and you do need to make an appointment. But it's very important to keep these things out of the garbage.
Okay.
Especially, well, I'm sorry, one more thing, electronic waste. No TVs, no computers, anything with a plug or that has batteries, just don't put it in the garbage. It needs to be recycled properly.
Anything with a plug or has batteries does not go in the garbage.
Right.
And I know you wanted to let folks know and kind of speak on what is the biggest obstacle in getting people to reduce their waste.
Basically, it's the behavioral change. Also, if it's inconvenient, people won't do it, and then there's some people that just don't care. Those are the ones that break my heart, but there's way more benefits than that in what I do. But basically, people tell me all the time, oh, I have so many bags in my car, but, you know, I always forget them. You know, I forget to take them into the store, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I had a nickel for every time. But what I did to break that habit of mine, to change my own behavior, is, you know, I'm in the middle of shopping, I stop my cart, put my cart down, and I walk back out to the store and I go get my bag. And it doesn't take very many times of doing that before you start to learn and remember. And then once you do it once, you can do it twice, and then once you can, you know, 2 and 3 times, and then it's just normal behavior. So basically that's kind of just how you have to train yourself, you know, and you have to be motivated enough to do it and take a proactive approach to doing it. You can't just, make excuses and things like that. So
because we can all do that, but not all of us can cut back on our plastic bags, bottles, and our coffee cups, right? Those are our 3 main things.
Yeah.
If everyone here that's listening or watching had homework, it would be cutting back on your plastic bags, bottles, and your coffee cups.
Absolutely.
So I wish we had more time, Jenny, but I want to thank you again for talking with us today. You've been a very informative guest. If you'd like more information on anything you heard Jenny mention today, you're welcome to visit the Salinas Valley Solid Waste Authority online at www.svswa.org. That's www.svswa.org. Right now, we're going to take a short break, but don't touch that dial. We'll be right back in just a moment with more of the Your Health Radio and Television program.